I don't know what it's like. Well, it's a fair point. I mean, I've been with my wife for a decade, we were married, will be 8 years this year, and then we were dating for a couple of years before. So, like, I've been with her for like a decade. So, like, yeah, I have not been a single guy since kind of a different time. I had pre-Me Too, pre-Donald Trump, or the very beginning of Donald Trump, or whatever. Like, I don't know, it is a different culture, and I was not on dating apps, and Instagram wasn't a thing, and, like, believe me, I had not, even when I was in high school, like, even the slutty girls, I feel like never would have been like this. Like, the idea of, like, they would just, like, post pictures of their ass.
Yeah.
Was, like, that was not a reality in my... Like, you had to hook up with a girl to see her ass. Like, you didn't just get to say... So, granted, it's a different world. I will say, I can understand you... there was a couple other things that I wanted to talk about. Okay. Venezuela. I think we agreed on this one.
Yeah, I think it was a low-cost, low-casualty, brief intervention that in the end is a huge strategic victory. We're going to be able to go in there, increase their oil output, and then take the oil. And then we also get Cuba to boot. John Ratcliffe was down there negotiating with them, and I think that's all legitimate. If we're fighting in Iran, that's on the other side of the world, and they've been preparing for this war for 30 years. They got 190 million people. Venezuela, Cuba, that's our there. China's building all this dual-use infrastructure in Latin America with these countries. So I think that's one of the few instances where you can say that's
that there can't be any more European colonies here. That you can't colonize any more of our hemisphere. There were already European colonies at the time, but they were like no more. But that's a lot different than just maybe they do some business with some people we don't like, or maybe there's some, like loose, I don't know, connection to a foreign power. That doesn't seem like the Monroe Doctrine said we can invade any country, war with any country we want because it's in our backyard. So I don't think that actually seem to really encourage. I'm not trying to remove blame from anyone else, but it did seem to encourage. Yes, when we said earlier, when we were talking about the war in Iran, and I said, like, look, part of it's a moral issue for me. Just like, you can't be murdering people like this. How is it? And I don't like to be the guy. I'm not a Christian. I don't like when non-Christians Christians about Christianity or something. So I'm not like lecturing. I guess, like, how is it consistent with Christianity to almost like, if you have a view, let's say, look, some people, bodyguards or something, I don't know, not that many people died, but some people died. And if it's good for us, we could go kill them and take their shit, and then we'll have their shit. You get like how is that consistent with Christianity?
Yeah, well, if you look at it, it has evolved over time, and it seems that it has evolved as America's become more powerful. When it was promulgated, a hemisphere that basically said, we are the sovereign of the Western Hemisphere, our edict is the law, like whatever we say goes. So it is consistent with that. What's more, Venezuela and Cuba are really influenced in the same way that a colony from France or Britain would be in the 19th century, because they produce missiles, they have spying posts, it's like a intelligence operation, they've got dual-use infrastructure, and so it does actually represent China in our sphere of influence. So I would just say that. As far as the Christian angle is concerned, I don't think it's very clean, because in the era of strategic weapons and intelligence, all the modern technology, it gets a bit convoluted what constitutes national defense, because cyber weapons and intelligence agencies. So you could say, like, reasonably speaking, if Cuba has some kind of Russian-Chinese spying post on it in preparation for some future global, it is theoretically in self-defense to try your best to neutralize that. Give you carte blanche to go in and, like, just kill everyone in Cuba, because we could do it. But I think within reason, you're able to conduct these kinds of extraordinary options that are outside of what would be considered like a just war in the Middle Ages, like we're going to war with this kingdom because whatever. And in the case of Venezuela, it was so limited. So it's really, I wouldn't even call it a war, even a military operation. We just extradited one person who happened to be running a country criminal enterprise. Venezuela is a socialist dictatorship, and arguably they are like a criminal regime. Socialism's against the Catholic Church.
But what makes it criminal? From my perspective,
They're
all criminal regimes. But yeah, so I mean, it's a different. Some are worse than others. But like, what makes them a criminal regime?
Like they make money off of kidnapping is huge there. Like people get kidnapped all the
time.
Yeah. Release the hostages.
I mean, you mentioned dictatorship, but you don't believe in democracy. So like, I don't say dictatorship seem like that would be a bridge too far for Nick Fuentes.
There's good dictatorships.
Listen, I mean, to me, I think Donald Trump has celebrated how wonderful this is, claimed it was a regime change, claimed we're in control of the oil now. Now, of course, for other factors, but Americans have only seen an increase in oil costs since then. What seems to me been accomplished by the war what seems to me been accomplished by the war is approvals to Cuba. They're trying to get a ship full of oil.
Submarine off the coast.
Well, they were trying to move oil in, which Donald Trump allowed them to do, which I think was a good move. Not worth starting a war with over. But I think that, like, again, these are your people who came up with the just war theory, right? Like, these are all Catholics.
Yeah.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was all Catholics who came up with this. But the idea of at least having some, like, I understand like when Thomas Aquinas and those guys, when they're coming up with just war theory, they're clear, and they were very well aware of this, that they're balancing different things, right? Like you're balancing Christian ethics and then war, which is a very difficult thing, right? There's like the worldly realities of these wars, and they're attempting to go, look, obviously Christians kept killing someone and taking shit from them. So like, here is the only way that it could be justified, is if it's a defensive war, attacked, you fight it proportionally, something like that. I just think saying that like this regime ran off of like, criminal activities, I mean, certainly true, but I don't know, just seems
nuclear weapons. I mean, Russia and China are nuclear armed, and that means that we're kind of engaged with them in every way at all times. Global, because the whole basis of the Monroe Doctrine, nobody can touch us because of the oceans. Well, what are our adversaries going to do? They're going to try to get on our side, I guess. I'm not saying to go to war with Venezuela and like invade their country and take their sovereignty, take all their supplies. I'm saying, though, that if they're aligned against us in our hemisphere in a way that's threatening, we should be able to go in and change that. If they want it to be better, they should just align with us. You say, well, Cuba's this tiny defenseless island. Okay, well, then you better submit to Washington because you're right next to the superpower, and they're playing games.
Saying you think that is how we've got the whole situation. We can't afford the government we have, or even close to it. We can't afford the government we have, or even close to it. Like, you just can't afford this. We're living under the biggest government. Like, you just can't afford this. We're living under the biggest government in the history of the world. I mean, like, orders of magnitude. Like, it really is of government. And so we just have to print the money to millions. And we've printed, I know you might even know, and we've printed, I know you might even know some of these numbers better than me, but it's it. What is it? Since just shot this bullet wound of an economy. And because of this is what's destroying essentially the currency. It's what's making life like this, where, it really does destroy any hope at having a conservative country. I don't mean just conservative, like in decent values. Even as you describe it, this isn't a war of necessity that you're describing. You're describing a war of choice. Like, maybe you're describing a war of choice. Like, maybe it'd be better if we fought this. I just think it's bad policy to allow our government to always be in search, as John Quincy Adams would say, of another monster to destroy. These people do not. I think this is one of the fundamental problems with government. Kind of say anywhere anyone's interfering that maybe could be strategically bad for us, we can go fight a war there. I mean, man, the military-industrial complex.
For example, in the Cuban Missile Crisis, you say something like, well, Cuba's a sovereign state. They're allied with Russia, so they're putting missiles to defend themselves. You would say, no, that's close. And the same goes even, for other conflicts that have happened in the world. I think morally speaking, it just gets and that's part of a very concerted play. Like, they are trying to increase their And that's part of a very concerted play. Like, they are trying to increase their influence. They're building this stuff, and they're building this stuff in anticipation that they're going to put their Navy there. They have 400 times the shipbuilding capacity as us. They're building deep water ports everywhere, eventually to put their ships. And, like, for example, they put a missile launch system in a container, like a shipping container.
Mm-hmm.
So they container ships, load them up with shipping containers that may or may not contain.
Yeah, well, Taiwan's going to have to submit. I think. Taiwan's going to have to submit. I think.
To China?
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
By the way, no, that's, I mean, I say it kind of tongue in cheek, but I actually.
To China?
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
By the way, no, that's, I mean, I say it kind of tongue in cheek, but I actually agree with you on that one. I agree with you on that one. I think that so. It was an unmitigated disaster, but this was solved by getting on the phone and making a deal. And saying, but this was solved by getting on the phone and making a deal. And saying, listen, we can't live with this. So, listen, we can't live with this. So you got to move these back, and in exchange, a better way to solve them. And of course, the U.S. does have tremendous leverage if it were willing or able. Tremendous leverage if it were willing or able to use it. Now, this is one of the interesting dynamics with our government. With the wind, he's very powerful. But if he's going against the wind, like very powerful. But if he's going against the wind, like in other words, if the president of America is the most powerful position in the world in some respects. If Donald Trump wants to start a war, he can start a war anywhere he wants to. There's really no congressional, authorization or even war powers or anything. Honestly, does anyone believe, even if they did, if this War Powers Act had passed, and Donald suck my dick, does anyone think like that anything would have changed? So if he's starting wars, he's very powerful. Now, if he wanted to destroy the military-industrial complex, he has as much power as me or you. Like, if you're going with the grain, you're very powerful, but going against it, you're not. But, like, for example, if you wanted to end, say, like, the war in Ukraine, a little bit tougher now, at the beginning, but we have enormous cards we can play. We can say, hey, look, we'll leave NATO. The U.S. will leave NATO. It'll be just a European alliance. You can come in and we'll leave, but you all work out. Like, you could get Putin to stop, but you'd have to give him something, And even as you say this, I don't disagree with, like, some of the potential issues that you're talking about, and it is a very new world. And look, even as we're watching in Iran, I've been at this for 20 years now, and drones in war were just not a thing. That just wasn't a thing. It was a brand new thing when we had them. Now all of a sudden, this is a new reality. It totally changes warfare now when they can essentially close the Strait of Hormuz. If I think they've been doing business with everybody, and like perhaps then maybe that would be, if we want to get into that strategic fight, then it would be to let's do diplomacy. There's a lot of shit that the rest of the world really hates that we do. China, when Donald Trump even just went over there now, right? Like, he wants them to stop helping around in whatever logistical intelligence way they've been, and they want a whole lot of things from him. Like, we can get things, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just even things like big military mobilization in Asia or something like that. They have a real problem with that, and so us arming Taiwan or something. So I guess my point is just that, like, we could, rather than like launching wars over this stuff, and look, the Venezuela one didn't turn into like a catastrophe, but you risk that every time you launch one of these wars. And I think we would be much better off at just like being smart, being much more restrained. Saying, what was the phrase you used? In order to end a war, you gotta, or whatever. It's a peace through. Don't get me wrong. I guess maybe where we could agree, and then we could leave it at agreeing to disagree, is that I'd prefer we be more involved in our bet. I think this is in what the Likudniks perceive as the interest of Greater Israel. I think they've gotten Israelis killed and probably made them more of a hated state than ever before.
I think diplomacy is preferable where possible, but sometimes it's not possible. And it sounds like a lot of this root causes. It's like when you go to these Democrats, they say, well, the reason these kids are committing crime is because they don't have like after-school programs. And it's like, dude, they need to go to jail. Like, cops need to beat the shit out of them and take them to jail. And with Venezuela, it's like, look, Rick Grinnell proffered to deal with them. They didn't take it. I mean, because they wanted Maduro to stay in power. And our sticking point was, you got to realign with us. And Maduro's
that, but also I think there's a lot going on that we don't know about there, and I think Maduro was all tied in with the CIA and a whole lot of stuff going on that we're not aware of. Okay, I'm glad you prefer diplomacy first, Nick Fuentes. I very much enjoy our diplomacy. Let's hope this doesn't break into a hot war.
Ceasefire's intact.
The ceasefire is still intact, hanging on by a thread. It's a lot longer than the ceasefire in the Middle East right now. Dude, I really always enjoy talking with you. Thank you so much for coming back on, and look forward to doing it again.
Likewise, man. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys. Have a good one. Peace.
Okay, that was the world famous Nick Fuentes. Whenever we catch him, we always record him because I like building a library of the enemy. Just like Dan Bilzerian, one of the highest level psychopaths I've ever seen in my life. Dan Bilzerian. Him and Nick are feuding, the Tate brothers and Sneeko. I don't even know who Sneeko is. My friend, do you know who Sneeko is?
You should not know who that person is.
I do not know a Sneeko.
It's bad. It would be bad if you knew who that was.
I also didn't know who Chud, the architect, is.
Do you know Olivia, the Palestinian?
Yes, Habibti, I do know. And if you see her on the TikTok, she has her scarf on and she's drinking water and getting her lips wet. She's so pretty.
Habibti. Do you know who Weeby is?
So I've been reading Ayn Rand all morning. I'm back into reading books. I was in a room earlier. I said I'm reading books for a nonprofit to help veterans that suffer from PTSD, and immediately it was claimed that I am committing stolen valor by Eagle. And I said, well, you know, I like to accuse people of being redundant on this app and repeating their personality over and over again. And then he said, you know, you're doing exactly what you're accusing people of doing. And I said, I know, but I just wanted to get that out of the way. And then I was told that you're unbelievable. Unbelievable. So anyways, I was reading Rand, and it was very good. Reading books is great. And I keep encouraging my friend here to call me, to text me and say, here's a link. I got a book room set up. I'm going to read for 3 to 10 minutes. And if you want to read, you can read. But I'm going to prove to you that I'm actually reading and putting it on YouTube and using my phone and creating valuable content for my audience who want to purchase my wicker baskets or maybe come to a wicker basket workshop at the Renaissance Fair. Maybe going to pick up a musical instrument. Maybe you're going to decide to become a musician one day. I already am a musician, John. Here's my YouTube channel. Trying to figure out a good way to cool my room here. There's really no good way to do it other than put the air conditioner in. Okay, I'm going to keep reading Ayn Rand. Veterans that suffer from PTSD. That's great, John. Oh my God, I love that for you. Thank you for. Ayn Rand always refers to her novels as saying, as previously discussed. Just do a whole book. Okay, so this is page 50, The Virtue of Selfishness. I'm also using Meta and Loki. Page 50. And the question, this discussion is concerned with the principles by which one identifies and evaluates the instances involving a man's non-sacrificial health. The rational principle of conduct is the exact opposite. The rational principle of conduct is the exact opposite. Always act in accordance with the hierarchy of your values, and never sacrifice a greater value to a lesser one. This applies to all choices, including one's actions toward other men. It requires to possess a defined hierarchy of rational values, values chosen and validated by a rational standard. Without such a hierarchy, neither rational conduct, value judgments, nor moral choices are possible. Love and friendship, my friend, are profoundly personal. Selfish values, love, is an expression and an assertion of self. It means that one is indifferent to that which one values. Concern for welfare of those one loves is a rational part of one's self-interests. If a man who is passionately in love with his wife spends a fortune to cure her of a dangerous illness, it would be absurd that he does it for a sacrifice for her, not his own, and that it makes no difference to him, personally and selfishly, whether she lives or dies. Any action that a man undertakes for the benefit of those he loves is not a sacrifice if, in the hierarchy of his values, in the total context of the choices open to him, it achieves that which is of the greatest personal and rational importance to him. In the above example, his wife's survival is of greater value to the husband than anything else that his money could buy. It is of the greatest importance to his own happiness, and therefore his action is not a sacrifice. But suppose he let her die in order to spend his money on saving the lives of 10 other women, none of whom meant anything to him, as the ethics of altruism would require. That would be a sacrifice. Here, the difference between objectivism and altruism can be seen most clearly. If sacrifice is the moral principle of action, then that husband should sacrifice his wife for the sake of 10 other women. What distinguishes the wife from the 10 others? Nothing but her value to the husband who has to make the choice. Nothing but the fact that his happiness requires her survival. The objectivist ethics would tell him your highest moral purpose is the achievement of your own happiness. Your money is yours. Use to save your wife is your moral right and your rational moral choice. Consider the soul of the altruistic moralist who would be prepared to tell that husband the opposite. And then ask yourself whether altruism is motivated by benevolence. The proper method of judging when or whether one should help another person is by reference to one's own rational self-interest and one's own hierarchy of values. The time, money, or effort one gives or the risk one takes should be proportionate to the value of the person in relation to one's own happiness. To illustrate this on the altruist's favorite example, the issue of saving a drowning person, to save him only when the danger to one's own life is minimal. When the danger is great, it would be immoral to attempt it. Only a lack of self-esteem could permit one to value one's life no higher than that of any random stranger. And conversely, if one is drowning, one cannot. If it is the man one loves, then one can be willing to give one's own life to save him morally, for his treason to himself and to his own views. It is his failure to fight for the present. Remember that values are that which one acts to gain and or keep, and that one's own happiness has to be achieved by one's own effort, since one's own happiness is the moral purpose of one's life. The man who fails to achieve it of his own default, expressing, upholding, and translating them into practical reality. If a man professes to love a woman, yet his actions are different, inimical, or damaging to her, it is his lack of integrity that makes him. One should act to help him by whatever non-sacrificial means appropriate. For instance, if one's friend is starving, it is not a sacrifice, but an act of integrity to give him money for food rather than buy some insignificant gadget for oneself. Because his welfare is important in the scale of one's personal values. If the budget means more than the friend's suffering, one had no business pretending to be his friend. The practical implementation of friendship, affection, and love consists in incorporating the welfare, the rational welfare, of generalized respect and goodwill, which one should grant to a human being in the name of the potential value he represents until and unless he forfeits it. A rational man does not forget that life is the source of all values, and is such a common bond among living against inanimate matter that other men are put to achieve the same virtues as his own, and thus be. This does not mean that he regards human lives as interchangeable with his own. He recognizes the fact that his own life is the source, not only of all his values, consequence, an extension, secondary projection of the primary value, which is himself. The respect and goodwill that men of self-esteem feel toward other human beings is profoundly egoistic. They feel, in effect, other men are of value because they are of the same species as myself. In entities, they are revering their own. This is the psychological base of any emotional feeling of species solidarity. Since men are born according to the moral character they have actualized, if he finds them guilty of major evils, his goodwill is replaced by contempt and moral condemnation. In life, that one helps strangers in an emergency, and only emergency. The same. But their application to either case requires precise definitions. An emergency is an unchosen possible, such as a flood, a fire, shipwreck. In an emergency situation, men's primary goal is to put out the case. Their only task is to return to those conditions under which their lives can continue. By its nature, an emergency situation, enjoying this. This is mayoral candidate John
So
Kitover.
we shouldn't help each other.
Only in a situation.
Sorry.
Only in soft H there, you're getting better. One day at a time. Hard R to soft H, all the way to just N-word. You can just get back to books and being again. Because it's all projection. You know, you are the N-word you project. It is your insecurity. Or it is your, I mean, didn't we just read about that? That it's like a secondary projection. Oh yeah. Oh, that's much better. So I don't know if you know about Dan Bilzerian, but he is one of the most horribly obnoxious people maybe to have ever lived. And you know, I was looking at the things he writes is even permissible under law. That like the Department of Justice can't go to Elon Musk and X and say, hey, fortunately, you know, you may user or limit his freedom of speech, but these past posts, is it legal to say these things and be in possession of a massive arsenal of weapons? Caches of weapons. Asking Nick Fuentes about weird, so low IQ. And it's true. I mean, you just heard me read a book just recently. At the end of the day, this app, even Clownhouse X, everybody is competing with their media for attention in the attention economy and phone. But until you start texting me, okay, bro, I'm not trying to compete in the attention economy. You know, you're just consuming my media, and I'm trying to launch. You know, from the slingshot of David. And the only way to do it is through your cell phone, my friend. It's the only way. There's no other way. Your cell phone is David's slingshot. An incredibly gifted communicator. There's no redundancy. It's crystal clear. And then he hits you with a zinger. Like, did you hear what he said? Where he's like, the problem isn't that
You don't get no
right in between little Haiti.
Somebody come verify if you
Where my Bay Area people at?
The what?
Anybody from the Bay in here? Oh, what Bumpy? Oh, well, Bumpy in Alaska.
Bumpy not from
What's
the
up, Phil?
Bumpy Johnson. They know Bumpy Johnson. Can't tell you how to. Just remember, never go full R word. My friend, you have a tendency to go full R word.
I know.
It's all projection.
They shall bring the glory of the stars into the hearts of men. 16, for he is ever a son and she a moon so chosen. Born upon their brows, oh splendorous 19, oh azure-lidded woman upon them. into the hearts of men. And she but to him is the we are not so chosen. 18 burn upon their brows, or serpent. 19 hours you live. 20. The key of the rituals is in these are fools that men adore. Both their gods and their men are fools. 12 come forth, oh children, under the stars and take your fill of love. 13 above you and in you, my ecstasy is in yours. My joy is to see your joy. 14 above the Jaguars, as the lake of splendor. She bends in ecstasy to kiss the secret orders of a deep winged globe. The starry blue are mine, a wank of Naghorn's These are fools, their men are blue, both their gods and their men are fools. 12 come forth, oh children, under the stars and take your fill of love. 13 I am above you, and in you my ecstasy is in see your child. Is to see your child.
The manifestation of new the unfurling of the company of heaven. Every man and every woman is a star. For every number is infinite, there is no end. 6 feet deep, my secret center, my heart and my tongue. 7, behold, it is revealed by eyes, the minister for God. The cubs is in the pool, not the pool in the cubs. 9 worship then the cubs, and behold, my light shed over Let my servants be few and secret, they shall rule the many and the the manifestation of night to the unveiling of the company of heaven. Every man and every woman is a star. Every number is infinite. There is no difference. 5
Mine is the head of a man, and my insight is keen as the hawk's. By my head I invoke me with labor and pain and fear. By my body I invoke thee. About me shine the diamonds of radiance white and pure. I the Lamb invoke thee. Mine is the garment of white, sown with gold, the flashing of my hand I wear. By my robe I invoke. Mine is the sign of a prophet's and time. By the sign I invoke Mine is the turban of white and gold, and mine the blue vigor of the intimate air. By my crown I invoke thee. My fingers travel the beats of the world, so run I after thee, my car of glory. By my fingers I invoke thee. Walk the double power, the voice of the Master. By the song I invoke thee. In my hand is thy sword of revenge. Let it strike at thy bidding. By the sword I invoke and my insight is keen as the hawk's. By my head I invoke pain and fear. By my body I invoke thee. The fountain ain't given of none, save it be of thee, O Lord. By the Lamb I invoke thee. Mine is the garment of white, sown with gold, the flashing of day that I wear. By my robe I invoke
hand is thy sword of revenge. Strike at thy cheek. By the sword I Mine is the head of the man, and my insight is keen as the horns by my head in boasting. I am the only begotten child of my father and mother. My father is dead, my mother bore me with labor and pain and fear. By my body I invoke thee. About me shine the diamonds are radiant, white and pure. By the brightness I invoke thee. Mine is the red triangle reverse, the sign given of none. Save it be of thee, O Lord. By the Lamb and I invoke thee. Free mine is the white soul with gold. The that I wear by my robe, I invoke thee. Mine is the sign of a prophet and typhon. By the sign I invoke thee. Mine is the turban of white and gold. Anchor of the dignity by my crown I invoke thee. My fingers travel on the beat of earth, so run I after thee in thy car of glory. By my fingers I invoke thee. I hear the one of double power in the voice of the master. Abraham, by the word I invoke thee. Be mine not the dark blue waves of music in the song that I made above to strike. Draw the flaming sword. Triumph and a conquering Lord. A big jump by the sun I invoke thee. Hear my ugly voice for the rebels. Let it strike up by the head. By the sword I invoke thee. The voice of the fight, the voice of the six, the voices. Abraham. My father is dead. My mother bore me with labor and pain and fear. And my body I invoke thee. about me. Shine the diamonds of radiance, white and pure by their brightness. Mine is the red triangle. Mine is the garment of white. Soon. Mine is the head of the man, and my insight is keen as the ox. By my head, I invoke thee. I am the only begotten child of my father and mother. My father is dead. My mother bore me with labor and pain and fear by my body. I invoke thee. About me shine the diamonds of radiance and pure. By their brightness, mine is the head of the remaining in the side. The invocation concludes. Therefore I say unto thee, come thou forth and dwell in me, so that every spirit, whether of the firmament, or of the ether, or of the earth, or under the earth, or dry land, or in the ether, or from the air, or of roasting fire, and every spell and scourge of God, the vast one might be. Mine is the head of the hawk. And yes, I bear the rose and cross of life and chosen cross of life and light. Hearing the sign as each Abrahadabra, and the invocation concludes. Therefore I say unto thee, come thou forth and dwell in me, so that every spirit, whether of the firmament, or of the ether, or of the earth, or under the earth, on dry land, or in the water of a whirling air, or of fire, and every spell and scourge of God, the vast one, might be
You came like dawn in my hands, soft but stronger than none. My fear turned gold, all night broke into. I was lost in the moment, the day. Stop thinking, let it fall. Take the deepest breath of my life. You can start. Take the deepest breath of the day. Hold for 10, not 11, 10, not 9, stay. Wisdom of God is now. Joy, love, heart, enlightenment. You found me in the quiet, with my hands still shaking. I was carrying the hurt, like a name I couldn't drop. Then you touched my trouble, and the whole room stopped. Stop thinking, and your problems. Take the deepest breath of the day. Hold for 10, 11, 10, not 9, stay. And in his woman called the Scarlet Woman is all power given. They shall gather my children into their fold. They shall bring the glory of the stars into 16. For he is ever a sun and shield. But to him is the winged secret flame.
Yeah, that's the part you won't even know.
Gods, and I'm invited over there, and there is a hand washing or some kind of ritual that is sort of, this is what's done. I would absolutely not only do it out of courtesy, but as a guest in your home.
Like, oh my God. Girls are incomplete. Girl. I just hate niggers.
Yeah, I know.
That's why I don't let my dogs lick me in the face. I ain't trusting their mouth.
Don't fucking play with me. I ain't it. Yeah, I don't got this shit. Am I too mean?
Okay, this is Patty from Clubhouse. She's having a mental break. She created a room called You Play It Again, Now You Black for Life. She's putting it in her Telegram. She is pissed.
Yeah, when I love Lovato, I love how they're a mix of religion, politics, and fucking sexual stuff. Well,
Oh, splendorous serpent, 19